Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome to the East-West Show. Jack Chow is hosting with the G&E TV. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Chris Nibby, and a political commentator. In my eye, he is a fighter for justice all the time. I respect him a lot, not only for his talent in making his Mysterious China 19 films. It's going to be 20, and by the way, he is heading China for his 20th episode for the whole series. That's why I put him here in a compact way to finish those subjects that I feel of my major concern lately. So that's why we're here again. So today, once again, welcome to the show, and I'd like to share with you about your take of the subject, freedom of speech. Right? We all understand that under this beautiful flag of democracy, vested by Constitution, that we have a huge range of freedom of speech. No other countries have, or less, much less, if they do. Right? Nowadays, ever since 9/11, September 11, 2001, things seem to be changed. We started feeling that we no longer have that much freedom we used to have. So do you agree with me? To what extent, please?
I do agree with you, because the First Amendment of the revered American Constitution affirms the right of we the people to speak and worship freely, assemble peacefully, petition the government for a redress of grievances, and have a free press. Nowhere in the First Amendment does it permit the government to limit speech in order to avoid causing offense, hurting someone's feelings, safeguarding government feelings, protecting corrupt government officials.
Safeguarding government secrecies.
Yeah.
Right. By that, I just happened to overheard over the radio that this morning, that Assange was going to be released from El Salvador, or kicked out of El Salvador.
There has been so much pressure on El Salvador. It's not the El Salvador, it's Ecuador.
Oh, Ecuador, I'm sorry.
It's the Ecuadorian government by the United States that they finally relent, because they also have a new president who obviously doesn't have the courage to resist America like the old one. And now he's being kicked out, and he's being handed over eventually to America, where, as a free journalist, he will be prosecuted or accused of having revealed government secrets, even though the First Amendment precisely does want the free press.
That probably really calls for another discussion with some attorneys in this area, civil rights attorneys or stuff like that, those areas, to see how exactly he violated the freedom, he violated the law. Do you think that was worth a call?
I think he did not violate the law, and I think everybody knows it, but unfortunately the government is very strong, and under the guise of fighting terrorism and safeguarding government secrets, they will try to put pressure on him. I don't think that in the end he will be incarcerated, but he has already spent 5 years in the Ecuadorian embassy. I spent another
which is like prison. Which is like a prison anyway.
Like prison. So it's a very sad case, and I think we could discuss that some other time. We should now concentrate on freedom of speech.
Okay, a little bit. Let me hang on a little bit, just only a little bit. And the same news also says that both either United States or Russia would want him in their prison. Why would Russia want?
I don't know of Russia.
Right,
I don't know.
Russia.
I haven't heard about that.
I see.
I
Okay.
have never heard about
Anyway,
that.
all right. Let's move on to your next the lineup.
You see, there is a war being waged between free speech activists who believe that free speech is an unalienable right of we the people, and those who believe free speech is a mere privilege granted only under certain conditions. With other words, it looks to me, in America, the censors seem to be winning.
That we have the feeling. Remember 2003, it started a movement of tapping and anti-tapping, right? Because the FBI and the CIA, they're doing the cell phone typing, the tapping program. That they say they are not stealing the privacy just from a concern of national security, right? And from then on, it was vital for quite some time. And later, as time goes, the temperature reduces, the heat subdued, right? How it is, what it is now, are we still being tapped?
Yes.
The wiretapped?
Oh, yes. And I'll get to that later. Right now, I like to say that America has entered into a self-serving, insulated international law defying in which free speech has become regulated speech. To be acceptable only when it reflects the values of the so-called majority, respectively the elite that is the powers that be. Free speech is considered dangerous and unacceptable when it moves beyond the political, religious, racial, and socio-economic comfort zones of the brainwashed public.
We may argue a little bit in this area. I would like to make it clear to you that, with all respect, well, I still feel it is necessary to discuss a little bit, right? In certain areas, when it has certain environment or concerns, things can be limited. Remember a few months ago, there was a release of the document, a time out already, of Kennedy assassination, John F. Kennedy assassination, right? And even Donald Trump and his administration on the extreme right later on capitulated to the request to withhold certain amount. I believe it was 30% or whatsoever of the document to be released. Do you think so? Do you agree with that?
No.
Do you still remember with that
do.
instant?
No,
right?
I don't agree with it. You either have a free press and you either have free speech or you don't. There is no debate, and the First Amendment is very clear and simple. It is the government which has slowly sliced away the right of free speech, and by introducing under the guise of certain emergencies, under that guise they have sliced away the right of the people of free speech. And they continue to do so.
But, well, your disagreement is one thing. I believe this is the practical so far, and things are still ongoing. Today, with my dear friend Chris Neby, my lovely audiences, we're touching base with you about the freedom of speech, how much we have left. And in the system, we believe we deserve a totally free freedom of speech. However, due to certain reasons, explainable, unexplainable, that we are limited to only a small area of freedom of speech. So with me, my good friend Chris Neby is sharing his thought with us, and we take a short moment and we'll come back to continue, please. Hello, my dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow, with my friend Chris Nibby, sharing the thoughts on the subject of freedom of speech, which is the question, our big question, that has been bothering Americans for quite a long time. Ever since 2003, or even prior to 2003, ever since the incident of September 11, we seem to be on the different track when the constitutional right is concerned. Speaking of the freedom of speech, though, we are limited to a certain extent. So is that right to limit us that way? Is that not right? Everybody has different views. For example, just now, we laid down the subject and we had a little disagreement on this one. One says that well, it's totally wrong to limit the area of freedom of speech, right? And some say, I'm not saying myself, I'm saying that some say that it is very argumentatory, so that we should keep some areas to be, well, allowed to government activities. Right? Now, with that taken into consideration, though, you do not even agree with the fact that the government withheld now, is withholding now the partial document, about 30% of the assassination of Kennedy?
Right. I don't agree with it because you see, empowered by phrases such as hate crimes, bullying, terrorism, extremism, etc., the government continues to limit free speech and even criminalize
it.
Yeah. You see, in reality, we the people are only free to speak as a government official or corporate entity such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, and YouTube, and the corrupt laundromat of the mainstream media elite may see fit and allow. This is a reality. And this is why, for example, Julian Assange is in trouble. We should actually respect him for what he did. Because he did reveal things which were very unpleasant and should not be tolerated by we the people.
Like I said, respectfully, I respectfully disagree 100% with you, because when agreement is talked about, we only can agree upon certain area, certain range, right? Okay, now, for example, right, take me myself for example, all you see about me is the appearance about me, and there are insight about me which I keep a secret myself. All right, for example, I have 3 legs. No, 3 legs you can see already, right? I have something that I want to keep to myself. All right, okay, now suppose if I am a government, right? If you are the people, do you deserve to know everything about me from inside out?
Yes.
You believe yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, and then did you see the film Post, based upon true story or Washington Post?
Yes.
All right. Did you think the government has a stand, has a position before the court decision to keep it a secret?
No. No, it doesn't. I mean, we either have free speech or we don't. You can't define it. If you have 100 people and you have 100 different opinions, that's not right. You either have it or you don't have it. And you see, when asked to choose between the rule of law and government authority, the Supreme Court tends to side with the government.
Yeah, okay.
So if we people no longer have the right to voice our opinion in public, no matter how hateful, prejudiced, intolerant, misguided, or politically incorrect they may be, then we the people do not have the right to free speech.
In the particular case of Washington Post, though, the government, the Supreme Court did not take a side of the government. The Supreme Court did exactly the contrary on the paper side,
Yes.
on the press side.
But that is quite
So
some
that's why
time
they
ago.
won the war.
That's quite some time ago, and times have changed and continue to change almost daily, as the said case of Julian Assange proves.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what kind of penalty or punishment or even crime you want to commit him when he does get captured by United States or Russia?
First of all, he has nothing to do with Russia. This is a misinformation.
Okay.
It's only America who wants him, and America wants him in order to exercise an example and quieten future whistleblowers. But whistleblowers are very courageous, because there was nobody who gave him $20 million, because if somebody would have given him $20 million, he would have retired on a Caribbean island and nobody would talk. You see, so these are courageous people and they need our support, because we are being brainwashed we're like sheep. Okay, you go there, you do that. That's the law. Nobody wants, it doesn't only allow you to question it anymore. We're getting into this direction of a tyranny.
I know.
Yesterday we talked about tyranny of bureaucracy.
Yeah. It is only comes to the argument of how big you believe a government role can play.
You see, the First Amendment is like a steam valve. Mm-hmm. It allows we the people to speak their minds, air grievances, and contribute to a larger dialogue that hopefully results in a world of equality and justice for all. When there is no free speech, frustration builds, anger grows, and we, the people, will become more desperate to force a conversation or a solution.
Okay.
That's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
If you bottle up dissent, it's by bottling up dissent, you're creating a pressure cooker of misery, discontent, hate.
Do you think?
And distrust that will sooner or later blow up violently, and then you sit there and ask, "Oh, how come? I don't understand it."
Do you still believe that in between the people's call and the government job, there is never going to be the same ground?
Yes, that is true.
Right? The government want to say, I got to do a job. For example, I have learned that Chris Neby is going to rob my house, right? With reliable information or credible source of information. You're preparing tools, you have a plan whatsoever, and you want to invade my house. That's your target, right? Okay, now, without me knowing, without anybody knowing, they investigate on you, they search your house whatsoever, with or without warrant, to make sure that they stopped it. And then they did stop it. Right now, is that my claim to say, is it your claim to say that your privacy has been invaded? Or is it my thankfulness to be expressed that government finally stopped somebody robbing my home?
I am sorry to correct you, but that has nothing to do with free speech. That's somebody is a suspect, and if somebody is a suspect, the government has the right
let's make it a speech.
to do it.
Yes, let's make it a speech. 5 years later, if the government did what the government did has been a piece of information, and that some paper, somebody has it, he wants to tell the public about the government that once did on you, right? That is the freedom of speech to talk about. We can make it freedom of speech.
That's fine with me.
Anytime. So
that's fine.
Do you think by then is his argument between my gratefulness to the government. Finally, oh God, they did something to protect me. Or is it the freedom of speech call? Say, hey, the freedom of speech being invaded. I'm not necessarily fighting with you. I just want to fake a position to.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with
to
that.
reverse.
No, this is fine. But I'm talking about people voicing their opinion. And even if they're not correct, you have to respect them. Because there, where there is smoke, there is fire. So usually, if there's something discussed, whether in a negative or in a positive way, somewhere there is the truth. And like a coin has two sides, but there's always a third side. And the third side is very interesting. And just take Julian Assange. I think it is very, very inhuman to do to him what they did. And that's it, and what they're doing.
Okay. All right. And you, of course, you can stand tall to what you hold on to. And I like to stick to my position. I believe that somewhere, somehow, to a certain extent, the government, for the purpose of protecting the whole country, though, it might have to take the blame, even if there is a blame, right? Okay. Now, dear friend, my lovely audiences, it is a very easy subject, but very hard to talk, right? Because it refers to everything aspect. They are 180 degrees to each other, right? With my friend Chris Libby, I kind of fake a position from this end to challenge with his to see what's the relationship between the freedom of speech and between the government job. Right? So let's take a short moment out. When we find out, when we come back, we'll find out how exactly the two contradict each other, or after all, the two even work for the same goal. Could be. So stay with us. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow with the East-West Show. Today I'm with my friend Chris Libby, a Hollywood director and archivist, I call him, because he has been in and out archives for so many years that he has a dust on him, on his shoulder. I can smell it, and of course I share this, so share with him all the time about what he has discovered. It's all related to the word that Julian Assange will be kicked out of Ecuador, and Russia or United States may have him incarcerated, and that leads us to a discussion of government job, government secrecy versus the freedom of speech. Right? Probably, with me is my good friend Chris Libby. Once again, welcome back to the show. Right, good. Okay. Probably the Facebook scandal could be your backup, right?
Yes. For example, the corporate internet giants, Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc., in cooperation with the Justice Department, are now in the process to determine what kind of speech will be permitted online. What will be permitted online and what will be deleted in the global electronic ghetto of mind and data control. Because this is where we have gotten now because of the recent Facebook scandal. So the free speech oppression has now started, and independent voices of liberty and truth will be edited or silenced in the land of the free and home of the brave.
I know. Lots of people are getting frustrated for their private information being impeached, being sold, in some worst cases, all right, that causes a very big scandal of the whole internet world. On the other hand, though, there are instances to offset what you hold upon. At least I know one. For example, remember 2 years ago, at the San Bernardino County shooting?
Yes.
The shooting, right?
Yes.
The couple
Yes.
shooting, right?
Yeah.
And later they captured their cell phones,
Yes.
right? And then requested to decode the phone.
Yes.
The request was denied, so on and so forth. Well, and your take on that, please?
Absolutely wrong. They should absolutely. There was a criminal act performed, and the government has the right to decode the cell phones. That's totally different, Jack. That is totally different.
However, that was a Google phone,
yes.
right? That was an iPhone. It was iPhone,
Whatever
right?
it was, I don't understand why this even came up.
No. The iPhone company refusal was exactly based upon freedom of speech and freedom of privacy.
But that was wrong, and I think eventually they lost, and the phones were decoded.
No, they didn't lose. In between the court decision, the FBI, they decoded themselves.
Okay, fine.
They decoded themselves.
Good for
right?
them.
All right. Now, so I'm talking about back then, before the decoding, the defense excuse was that our protection of privacy
Is wrong. In a case of such a criminal case where a massacre was initiated, there is the right of government to take and open any kind of information they can get.
All right.
That's a different case.
If I'm investigating a case that is related to September 11th,
Same thing.
right? Okay, now I have a big reason, I have a big task to do, so that I have to get into your privacy to get it, for example.
Yeah.
So am I invading your private law, your privacy?
That has nothing to do with freedom of speech. The guy, I'm
The same
talking,
thing, let's make it a speech.
No.
Let's make it a speech.
No, it's not a speech. I'm
right.
talking, the First Amendment talks about freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, you see, that we the people have lost faith in the average citizen's ability to do the right thing. We have allowed ourselves to persuade, and we have allowed ourselves to be persuaded that we need someone else to think and speak for us. That's the issue, not a criminal issue where I have. Of course, when I'm investigating a murder suspect, I can do what I want because this man has committed a vicious crime. That's different.
Yeah.
We have stopped debating. You see, what free speech was all about, it was stopped debating among ourselves, stop thinking for ourselves, and stop believing that we can fix our own problems and resolve our own differences in peace and harmony by creating win-win situations.
I know.
That's the whole thing.
Let's stick to the freedom of speech, right?
Yes.
Let's stick to verbal expressions. How about that?
Yes.
Verbal expressions,
That's
right?
it.
Okay, now, you're flying to China.
Yes.
I'm flying China too.
Yes.
All right. We happen to be on the same airplane.
Yes.
Without recognizing each other.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you see me. You say, "Hi, Jack."
Yes.
Will you not be arrested?
No. Why?
Right? You're hijacking.
I hijack who?
Hijacking the airplane. The current law says you can't do it. For that,
What, I cannot say hijack on an airplane?
no, of course not.
I've never heard about that.
You can never heard. Never heard. But according to
sure?
yeah, of course I am sure. I've
cannot
done.
greet somebody I know. I've done that all the time. Many times I meet people.
All the time. You're lucky. Well, once you do it on the airplane though, right? The flying cops, I call them flying cops, will get you arrested. They will handcuff you. They will investigate you. They will make sure that you're not hijacking, and then they have a good reason to land the plane to put you in jail for further investigation.
I mean, I'm sorry, with all due respect, Sheikh, I don't know where you get this kind of information.
I know. I deserve a hijack myself, right? And I say, I'll be happy if my friend Chris Nibby sees me from the all back of the airplane and jack.
But this, you see, gets back to the thing which I just addressed. We have become reliant on the government to protect us from our fears. Because you are addressing a fear here, a fear of hijacking. Those fears are carefully instilled in us by a government-controlled media laundromat that brainwashes we the people.
Now you're talking. Because of fear, as long as you confirm there is a fear, it is the government's job to make sure the fear stays in your mind, in my mind, in everybody else's mind, so that on the whole airplane, nobody says hijack unless they really intend to hijack.
I will check this out.
You will investigate.
I don't believe.
And the same thing in a bank, we're in line, right? If you see Robert, right? You don't yell out, Robert. You don't want to do that.
That's different.
Yeah.
I think we are going off the path.
No, of course not. Yeah, no. That's exactly related to freedom of speech that I learned. I learned not only from books. I learned from chatting with my attorney friends. Because these indicate that freedom of speech are limited or is limited to not include some areas.
No, that's not what the First Amendment says. We either go by the First Amendment or you don't. It's very simple. Put it. The freedom of speech requires courageous, self-reliant citizens with confidence in the power of free and fearless reasoning applied through process of popular government. That's very simple, and your examples don't hold it with me. Contrary, George Washington stated, "If freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent, we may be led like sheep to the slaughter."
Could be the fact, but the thing is that I have no problem when lots of people stick to the Constitution. We are governed by Constitution, right? However, back to Constitution, there is no airplane, right? Human couldn't fly at that moment. So there's no hijacking. There's no hijacking there. Now we have, on one hand, to stick to freedom of speech. On the other, we have to prevent people hijacking. And we want to prevent people, being mistakenly taken as a hijacker. So we teach people not to say hijack on airplane. So what's wrong? Nothing.
But I don't think it works. I don't think it works on the basis, because then I should often on the airplane, Chinese people who recognize me from the interviews in China come up and photograph me and say, "Hi, Chris."
Yeah.
Nobody even have made a move or anything. The stewardesses or something.
Hi, Chris doesn't go hijack, right? Hijack.
Oh, now I get.
Now you get it? Hijack.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, of course, I agree.
Hijack.
Yeah, of course, I agree. That is.
I all of a sudden spring up, say hijack.
Yeah, okay, that's different.
Who the hell know what you're doing, right?
That's
okay, my dear friends, finally I made my point clear. Okay, good. All right, so my dear friends, let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we will find out from then on, except hijacking, hijack, what else can you not say? What else can you say? So I confused him quite a bit. All right, I guess I got you this time. All right, okay, good. All right, so we'll see. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to the show, talking about freedom of speech. With me is my good friend, Mr. Chris Nebe, a wonderful friend. I rely upon him so much. Every time either I have a hot subject or I feel like I need somebody to chat, I will talk to him, call him, and he will show up right away. And by that, I mean, he holds a big firm in Hollywood, Monarchs Corporation of Hollywood, and with a reputation of a lot of wonderful masterpieces. One of them is a documentary series called Mysterious China that has 19 episodes already, and he's working on the 20th. With me, he has done lots of shows on the East-West discussion. Today we're talking about freedom of speech versus the government job versus reality. And especially when after 9/11, we're at the post 9/11 era, right? So people thinking are kind of corrected, kind of in a different way. So there are lots of areas, or even our right, we have to give up. We have to compromise, okay, I'll put it that way, to compromise, all right. So we were at the point talking about versus the freedom of speech though, how come you can't yell hijack even if you see Jack on an airplane, right? So we're back, welcome back. Jack welcomes you back.
You have managed to totally confuse me, my friend.
I hijacked you.
You hijacked me,
yeah,
because I'm so focused on the First Amendment, and you're coming with this hijack thing.
Not only that, okay, in the theater, you have a full house of people.
Yes.
All right, and it's dark. Something is showing there, right? And you see a friend, her name is Fire.
Of course, same thing.
Say fire.
Yeah, let's not confuse our audience now with this.
That is your freedom of speech being limited.
No.
How about that?
No. That's no. That is sensible, and that's idiotic. Actually, it's an idiotic.
Not
example.
idiotic.
No, because anybody who does that would be, should think first before doing it, taking in consideration how sensitive we are today to these issues.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, these fears have been very carefully instilled in us.
That's exactly why before 9/11, before all the attacks, you can claim that was my mistake.
Right.
I was excited when I see my friend Fire. Right. I haven't seen her for 5 years. So all of a sudden when she showed up, I just, out of my mouth, I yelled the word fire.
Right.
However, the thing is that your yelling of fire caused big confusion. People crumbled each other, stepped upon each other. Somebody hit the door. Somebody get hurt the head or whatever. So many wounded, so many whatsoever, and caused the consequences.
Okay, this is an extreme thing, and I think we should concentrate on the fact that the American Constitution does not require we the people to serve government interests.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
However, I want you to come back a little bit, to agree, do me a favor, say the following. I agree with you, we can't shout fire in the theater.
Jack, I agree with you that we cannot say hijack on a plane and shout high fire in the cinema.
Okay, very good.
I agree with you.
All right, good.
You're my friend, okay?
Okay, now, your agreement gives you the only surrender, your surrender, that freedom of speech is surrenderable.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay,
In
good.
that case.
And then let's talk about government. Okay, all right.
Fine.
Good. I thank you for your capitulating.
You got me really punched out.
Okay, very got you.
But
Right.
you see, the government, the Constitution also doesn't require obedience of we the people. It does, however, insist on non-violence. With other words, if you express your opinion, you have to do it in a peaceful manner, trying to convince the other side that your opinion may be the right one. It's very simple.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
And but you see, because of the fears instilled on us by a corrupt laundromat major media, we all of a sudden become insecure, and we don't rely on ourselves anymore because people have a very clear sense of real and not real. And in the case of Julian Assange, which is a perfect example where free speech is being stomped on with a club by the government, it shows you that this is wrong. For example, I don't believe, you mentioned Russia several times. Russia does not want to have Julian Assange because, as the case of Edward Snowden very clearly proves, Russia gave Edward Snowden asylum. Otherwise, he would have been prosecuted by America.
Yeah, there was another story before Assange.
Before Assange. And you see, I also think it was a very noble thing of President Obama to pardon Manning, who gave, and here you have a contradiction because Manning gave the information to Assange. Assange released it. Manning was caught, he was in the service and served and was pardoned by Obama, which I think was a very noble and humane way, and I compliment President Obama on that decision, which was controversial in some parts of the American society, but I think this is where I come from, this is right. We cannot allow because it's tyranny. If you are not allowed to say what you think, and you are risking to be thrown in jail when you voice your opinion.
I am also bothered or confused by the fact it is the call of a bigger government or a smaller government, right? And yet, the bigger call or the smaller call may reflect where you stand by partisanship. And yet, still yet, the partisans are calling different ways in the opposite way. Sometimes they call against each other. You see what I mean? For example, the Democrats call for a smaller government, and yet they do not allow the fact that we want to say government has limited powers in controlling the people's freedom of speech. They agree to give the government a bigger power. You see what I mean? The confusing points.
Yes, but
they call for differently.
Correct, but you see, if we the people cower in fear before the government and obey, we will soon find ourselves as victims of tyranny.
Yes.
This is just the nature of humanity, you see, because there are always two forces. One force wants you to do something, and the other, and then you may not want to do this. So now it's who is the stronger one? So usually by fear, and that's why a dictatorship, you're always, and that's what the First Amendment and the Constitution of America did. It tried of course, many things are maybe outdated, because things have passed, as you said before, there were no airplanes when the Constitution was written. But still, the basic is still the same. Let me speak my voice in peace and harmony without being violent. It's always a question of violence, you see, because the violence of power, of force, creating violence creates disharmony. If people discuss, and that's why, for example, in Europe, all these countries have several parties, not two. Here it's like two. That's no good. Two is fine, but it's much better to have 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah, we do have more. We do have more.
No.
We have the Tea Party.
Yeah, no.
We have the Tea people.
Yeah, but they're not in power. We have two parties here, Republican and Democrats. In Europe, you have 6 real different parties who you vote for. Now, they sit in parliament and they discuss, and you form coalitions. There are people who are wise enough to see, okay, this may be the right way, and then they make that decision. That is much better than 2 parties, because here it's like 2 enemies, 2 dogs barking at each other all the time. I see very little cooperation. I see very little agreement on issues which are essential and which should be agreed on. Everything is always radicalized. We have this opinion.
To check and balance, from a check and balance point of view.
That's it. That's what you have in Europe. You
2 party is better than 1, and 3 is better than 2, because you have more checking, right? So now, so when they check for the purpose of a government limited power of controlling the country, right? Now, understanding everybody on a rotation basis, nobody can stay there for a long term, forever, though. The government itself has no longer term job to do.
That's, by the way, I find very interesting, which I didn't know, but which I learned through being with you, that these rotating systems in these cities here, that there is a council of council member, and within this council member, a mayor is appointed. So it's basically not that citizens vote for that particular person. It's they vote for the council members.
There are 2 different ways. In some major cities, they kind of like, for example, they have 5 council members, and they take turns. Like, for example, El Monte. For example, Fullerton. Monterey Park. For example, Fullerton, right? Just name it. But in cases like Pasadena, they have their mayor, vice mayor as another election away from the council members.
I see.
Among the council members, you can vote for a council member to be a mayor or vice mayor, or anybody on the street like to be mayor and vice mayor.
It's the people of Pasadena who vote for the person.
Who vote. And then in either way, it is all the people who vote, because either you vote for a council member or you vote for the mayor, so you come from the people. Now, it is the people that has the say, right?
Good.
Now, people decide who they choose to form a government. The government wants to say, hey, it is my job to keep that a secret from you. So in that case, government has no position, because government has no life.
That's good.
No prolonged life. Am I right?
Yeah.
So by logic, it is a failure try.
You see, I think we as people who can think and have an opinion, we have to speak up, stand up, speak up the truth to the powers that be.
Good point.
And you have many, many examples in history. In China, you have Lao Tzu. You have Confucius, you have Jesus, you have Mahatma Gandhi, you have Martin Luther King, you have Nelson Mandela, and so many others who stood up for what is right. And I think that is essential, that you stand up for what is right.
The fact that I respect you, the fact that I call you a fighter of justice, is because exactly most of the time, 100% of the time, you spoke for what you believe is right, okay? And you never told me how to rob a bank. You never taught me how to cheat, something like that, right? Okay, now, so we're like-minded people. But the thing is that, let me finish on the government thing, right? So now, there are people, there are government, there are countries. There are 3 different concepts. Government is an entity, is an organization to work on behalf of the benefit of the country. The country is formed by people.
Right.
Right? Okay, like that. Now, I give you an example. When the secrecy of Kennedy's assassination was related to the government structures, the government of Donald Trump doesn't have to keep it, because it's the previous government whatsoever, they are obsolete, right? Okay, now, the most dangerous cases are the secrecies are related to the nation. For example, the email of Hillary Clinton, right? Donald Trump has sweared in, and before his swearing, said many times he is going to so on and so forth. Now there's no more talk because the email has the secrecy that related neither to Trump government, Hillary government whatsoever, related to the nation. When that is at risk, though, people all back off. See what I mean?
You know what it is? Because it will expose powers that be, and it will tell something, and this truth is not welcome. That's the real reason. Mm-hmm. There are no secrets. I mean, there are no secrets which are yes, they're damaging certain power groups, and both power groups decided, look, we don't want to touch that because the other group may have something which will embarrass this group.
Exactly.
I am very sorry. I think deleting parts of this makes me suspicious that something is not right.
Yes.
And there is a reason to hide it.
And on the other hand, exactly the beauty of the democracy system is that different groups, different parties can always agree to one point with their differences, can come together all at one end when this is good or bad for the nation.
Yeah, but not disclosing these things is feeding into this conspiracy concepts.
They are learning, they are learning lessons silently. They are self-educating silently. Well, that's the best they can do. And compared to the laws of the national security whatsoever, well, they better stay the way they are. Anyway, it is necessary to good. In conclusion, I agree. It's always necessary, always significant to make a discussion, to keep discussion about freedom of speech, right? And yet, it is wonderful to understand freedom has a limit. And three, it is even more essential to understand that no matter secrecy, keep it or lose it whatsoever, national security, national benefit is the core, is the only way to justify. Do you agree with me?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Because you see, that will always benefit those who are in power at that particular time. Because there may be a time coming where what just was not revealed about the Kennedy assassination is something which will benefit somebody, and that somebody is in power, and they will reveal it to the people.
All right. Okay.
So I don't. It's much better to come clear and say this is what it is, because now you are suspicious. What is it? Why, after 50 years, this is happening?
Okay. All right. Good. Like one would say that it is good to argue. It is also good to let the disagreement to remain. How about that, right? So today, with my friend Chris Nibby, we had a very nice discussion. And matter of fact, we never had been this profound in theory discussions versus a few facts that I got him in. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah, you fooled me.
Yeah, I fooled you.
You fooled me.
All right. Thank you very much, my dear friends, for watching.
Bye-bye.
And to my brother, Chris Nibby, thank you very much.